Alrighty. Lastly here, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a hyperbola that's been translated h and k units to the left or right and up and down, as well as how do we go from a standard form or general form to this vertex form using completing the square. So with those two examples, remember h and k always seem to be the opposite of what we see because it's in the form of x minus h, y minus k. And then notice, like before, the y part can be first as well as the x part being second around that negative sign. And realize that the k stays with the y, the h stays with the x. So the center here is still at the location h, comma, k. And over here, h, comma, k. So recognize that, but either way, it's going to tell you what the orientation is. So looking at this example here, we have x minus 2 squared over 9 minus y plus 1 squared over 25 equals 1. So the first thing we're going to notice is that the center is located where? Well, we just said it, h and k, the opposite of what we still see. So I see x minus 2, that's got to be x minus a positive 2. So h is 2. And then y plus 1, that tells us that it's got to be y minus a negative 1, the opposite of what we're seeing again. So our center is at 2 comma negative 1, right there. There's our center. Next, we have to recognize that a squared is 9. So if a squared equals 9, then a equals plus and minus 3. That's the transverse axis directions. So noticing that x squared is first, that tells us that our transverse axis is going to be parallel to the x-axis, or in other words, it's going to be horizontal. We're going to go out 1, 2, 3 units there, and 1, 2, 3 units back here. Now the other nice thing that we have in this equation is the b value. B squared equals 25, so b has to equal plus and minus 5. That's going to help us with the box method. We're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus 5, and we're going to go down 5 as well. And so now what we can do is we can actually do the box method here. And remember, the box method is going to help us draw our asymptotes. So I'm going to go ahead and draw in a box for us, nice and light, because remember, the box itself is not the graph. The box just helps us represent where the graph would be. So we get the box there, and then the next thing, of course, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add in the asymptotes. Now, it's got to go through the center here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So, let's do it this way. Not going to be the best, but it'll be good enough for our drawing. And kablammy. Now we've got to remember, where were the vertices? Which was the transverse axis? Remember, the x squared term was first, so that means these are the two vertices, which means our graph's going to look, again, like this. Very stretched out. Going downhill with my hand is very hard to do with this pen. Getting used to it. Woo! And that's my very ugly looking graph. Now, if we needed to find where the vertices were, or the foci, we have to find the c value. So c squared equals a squared plus b squared. C squared equals a squared was 9. B squared is 25. We add this up. C squared equals, what's that going to be? 34. 34. So C is equal to plus and minus the square root of 34. Oops. My bad. 34, not 5. 4, which is approximately plus and minus the square root of 34. 5.8, we're going to say. So we'll call that approximately 5.8. Which means we would then go out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.8. There's a focus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.8. There's another focus. So now we've got our graph that's been translated. Hope that helps there. Let's take a look now at what we do if we're given an equation in standard form here. Well, we're going to have to complete the square. And we're going to have to complete the square twice for the variable x's and the variable y's. So the first thing we have to do is we have to isolate those x values. So 4x squared minus 8x go together, plus then the y values minus y squared plus 4y. And then let's move that 4 on over to the other side and say equals -4. Next, we're going to factor this 4 out. And so we're going to have 4 times x squared minus 2x, because 4 times minus 2x is the minus 8x. And then leave a space for completing the square. Now here we're going to factor out -1, that leading coefficient, -1 right there. So minus 1 times y squared minus 4y, because I took the -1 out, leave a space, equals -4. Now at this point, we're about to complete the square. So we're going to set up to do that. We're going to bring this leading coefficient 4 down. Now we're going to make the factor x plus or minus something squared. Minus 1 times y plus or minus something squared. That's going to equal something. Now remember why we did this. We need to figure out what number goes here so that we can get the perfect factor of this perfect square. The same thing here. We've got to figure out what number goes there to make that the perfect square so that this can become its factor. And then when we put those two things in, we're going to compensate for that here. And then we add all those numbers together right there. So, remembering how to complete the square, we take half of b, so half of -2 is -1. We square it and put it up here, plus 1. Over here, same thing. Half of -4 is -2. Square it, put it up here, we get plus 4. And then to compensate, remember, we didn't put a 1 in, we put 1 in a place being multiplied by that 4. So 1 times 4 is 4, so we're going to add in 4. And then over here, -1 times 4 is -4. Well, isn't that interesting? They're going to cancel each other out. So -4 plus 4 is 0. Minus 4 gives me -4. Now we're almost there. We've got one more step to do. And that's to remember that we never have multipliers in front here. And that this should always equal what number? Yeah, it should always equal 1. So to make this equal 1, I have to divide out this -4. So I'm going to divide that term by -4. Divide this term by -4. And this term by -4. Something interesting is going to happen. What we should notice is that -4 divided by -4 is 1. That's what we wanted. -1 and -4 is going to become positive. And that guy there will just cancel out. And then 4 and 4 reduces, but look at this. It still has the negative here. So that means this term should be second. It's the negative term. And this term should be first. It's the positive term. So when we write our answer, we're going to put this term first and that one second. We're going to go ahead and say y minus 2 quantity squared over the 4 minus, there's the minus right there, minus quantity x minus 1 squared over, now 4 divided by 4, that should have left us a 1, shouldn't it? So over 1 equals what? Yep, always equals 1. So there's our equation. Now that's transformed. We can go ahead and graph that. We know our center is at 2 and 1. Our a squared value is 4, so a is plus or minus 2. Our b squared value is 1, so b is plus or minus 1. And since y value is first, our hyperbola is going to go up and down. It's going to go up and down like that. So, there you go, folks. Have yourselves a good time practicing this. This was the last one, and I'll see you next time. Bye, bye, bye.